वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तः पुनः पुनः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। चैतन्यं सर्वगं सर्वं सर्वभूतगुहाशयं यत्सर्वविषयातीतं तस्मै सर्वविधे नमः। So, chapter 5 of this Upodghata Prakanam talks about the Buddhi Aparadaha. So, Buddhi means the intellect and Aparadaha means the mistake committed by the intellect. So, when you say mistake committed by intellect, what does it mean? It means that something which is not the truth is assumed to be the truth by the mind. And this particular mistake or error in perception is possible due to our belief, also our trust in various things. So in the previous class, I think I gave an example of this Rishi called Udanka Rishi. So Udanka Rishi is actually mentioned here in the story here. And the story is that this Rishi was a very famous meditator and he was meditating for a very long time. And due to his extreme tapas and his commitment to see the Lord, he was given a boon by Mahavishnu himself. He comes, then he says, you have pleased me with your devotion and commitment, and you are entitled to a boon from me, or you can ask what you want. So had the sage been a wise person, he would have said that I do not need anything from you. I have already discovered my own true nature. I do not need anything from you, and I'm very happy to see you. And that would be the end of the story. But when the buddhi is not functioning the way it is supposed to be, it is not an error. It is sometimes like, people make mistakes occasionally. And that mistake occasionally can also be a problematic thing. So here also this Rishi, when Vishnu comes in front of him, he has got a desire to live long. It can be to achieve some things. It can be to complete some task which he had in mind, which nobody knows, only he knows. So he says, everybody, in the Devaloka is having nectar, Amritattvam there, and they are all given a boon to live forever. They do not age, they do not die, they are always young, and they are always enjoying. They do not have any problems as we have here. And as you know, I am an old person. I have waited for so long, and I need to regain my energy. So I need this Amritattvam, which is given by the Devatas, to be given to me. So Vishnu, as usual, he doesn't ask anything. He doesn't ask. So be it. He goes away and tells Indra that such a person is living in Bhulokaha, and you're supposed to be giving some share of your Amritattvam to him, so that he can live longer and continue to do what he wants to do. So naturally, there is a bit of apprehension by Indra, because this particular thing was fought by the Devatas after a very, very bitter battle with the Asuras. So you know the story about all the Samudra Manthanam, etc. So when the Samudra Manthanam was being done, the Asuras were getting stronger, then Devatas getting stronger. So there was a long fought war. And finally, due to Vishnu's blessing and this mastery over how to support the Dharmic people, the Amritatvam was given to the Devatas, the Kalasham. So that is why we always say this Amritatvam and Vritatvam. There is always a conflict. Because the Asuras inside our body are the bad things. So the Asuras are the people who are always fighting within us. Now the Atma being Amritatvaha is always enjoying this freedom. Correct? So when Atma itself is free and it is the Amritatvaha, somehow the Buddhi, which is dotted by so many difficulties and errors, always fights. So this Rakshasa, Asura and Deva fighting is always there. It is forever. It is not going to end as long as Devas or Asuras understand that they are also the same part of it. So there is nothing called Asura, there is nothing called Devas. There is only Atma or Amritatva. So Devas also have got the same error in perception that they are the Devatas and they are to be living long and to be immortal. So this particular Amritatvam or Kalasha, this nectar, belongs to them only. They must not give it to anybody else. So when Vishnu himself goes and tells Indra, then Indra cannot refuse to Vishnu. He cannot refuse. So he says, okay, I'll do something. But he doesn't want to part away with the nectar easily. So he thinks about a plan. So what he does is, he doesn't know who this Muni is. So he says, I will go in the form of a very, very outcast person, not taking bath for many years, and I will just go in tattered rags. And he takes this Amritatva, this collection, small portion of it, not a very big portion, small portion of it, and he ties a big rope around his neck, then hangs it, so that it actually is just, not dangling below the waist. And he comes very shabbily in front of, this Udanga Rishi, and he says, I've been sent by Mahavishnu to share this Kalasham, this, nectar to you. So the Rishi is actually very, Tejas Rishi. So he has never seen a person like this before. So he says, how can I know that you are Indra or you are not this? He doesn't ask. He looks at the person from top to bottom. He sees the way he's dressed. He also sees the way the positioning of the whole nectar is there. It is not something just normally when people offer, they offer it in a hand like this. But he is somehow, brought something from dangling around here and there, and it is an inappropriate place for him to see. So he decides, he doesn't even ask Indra that. When Indra says, this is the Amritatvam I have got, he says, how can I believe it is Amritam? He says, no, you have to believe it or not, you have to taste it. But his mind is already polluted. So he already has got a negative view about this person, negative view about what it may contain. And because of that, he refuses to accept the Amritam. So Indra says, you don't want it, so I'm going back. So he goes back to Devaloka, very happy that he's accomplished his objective. And Vishnu also is very happy because he has fulfilled his objective. But the Rishi is not happy because he is still waiting for the Amritam, which has not come to him. So this is called the Buddhi Aparadaha. So this is a mistake committed by the intellect. not by anything else. It's a simple mistake of not trusting or looking at the person itself, looking at the surrounding itself, and then thinking that this could be this or this could not be this. So because of this, the story is given as an example to say that Atma Vidya, when I say Atma Vidya, it is something which cannot be taken by anybody. So there is no insecurity in Brahma Vidya. So when you say Brahma Vidya, there is no insecurity. But when there is something else other than Atma Vidya or Brahma Vidya, there is always insecurity. Because there is always a possibility that you might lose. Even the Devatas are also not very educated. They are not educated in terms of what Atma Vidya. Only Indra is supposed to be the one who came very close to understanding who this Brahman is. I think the Kenopanishad Bhashyam class, I think we saw the story of Yakshaha. If you remember that this Yakshaha is a person who just appears out of somewhere in the court of Indra. And then he just vanishes quickly. So all the people are sitting in the court of Indra, all Agni, Vayu, all Devatas are sitting there. And they all can see this flash of light coming through. And before even they could comprehend who it is, he disappears, the Yaksha disappears. So as usual, Indra and these people are worried about some Rakshasas come in some form to their Indraloka and they are trying to take the Amrita. So they send Vayu there, and Vayu, he sees this Yaksha going away, and then he says, "Don't run away. I want to see who you are." So he says, "Okay, I'll wait." So Vayu says, then the Yaksha how is there appearing as consciousness there. He says, "Who are you?" He says, "I am this Vayu, Vayu Bhagavan." So what can you do? He said, "I can do whatever you think. I am Vayu. I can blow everything. So I can entire the whole universe, entire cosmos, everything I can blow within just a few seconds. So I am that powerful." So the Ahankara is there. So even though Vayu was present in the court, Indra is there, but still the Kartutvam or the ego, Ahankara, is still there. So as long as Ahankara is there, Atma is not visible to you. Because it has got all the qualities inherits. So the Yaksha says, "Okay, I'll give you this small, darbaha, small darbai stick." He places there. He says, "You try to blow it." So Vayu does it so many things. He can't even move a thing. So he comes back to the court of Indra and says, "This Yaksha person there, he kept some dharba. I couldn't even move it. Just, you must be joking." So then Agni goes. Agni also goes and he tries to burn the whole small dharba. He couldn't do it. Comes back. Then he comes to Indra. Indra comes says, "I will myself go and see who this Yaksha is." So when Indra comes, the Yaksha disappears. He is not there. But because being the king of the Lord, he cannot just come back empty-handed to anybody else. Vayu can come to Indra, Agni can come to Indra, but Indra cannot go to anybody else. So he uses his power of meditation. Just like Udanka Rishi, he is there, he sits there and meditates. Then after meditation, he goes after the Yaksha in the direction which is going. Then he meets there Uma Devi, who is supposed to be meditating for Lord Shiva there. So he asks Uma, "Who are you?" He says, "I am this Uma Devi, I am the consort of Lord Shiva. And I am in meditation, to be with the Lord." So he says, "I heard, do you see this Yaksha going there?" So then he says, "Yaksha is not a Yaksha, he's a consciousness, he's only Shiva itself." So what it means is Buddhi Aparadha means sometimes the intellect doesn't accept the fact. Despite studying Shasana for many years, despite being in the class for many years, despite so much informative text, it is possible for a person to commit this error of perception. So it is not that something, it is possible. So for that, one has to be careful. So this is the essence of how the mistake in intellect is a cause for the problem in samsara. So this is the first introduction to this verse. Let's look at the first verse. So the first verse is the one which is what I explained to you, summary of that. Mutra shanko yato dankaha, mutra shanko yato dankaha, nagrahi damrutam tatha, nagram hi tamrutam yatha. Karmana shabaya jantoho, karmana shabaya jantoho, atma dhyana grahastatha. So, mutraha shankoho. So, as I told you, this yatha dankaha. So, yatha uddankaha. So, the Uddanka Rishi is being mentioned here. Just as this Uddanka Rishi, what happened to him? Mutra ashankaha. So, when the Amrutam is presented to him, he thought it is urine. Because the way he saw was it is not presented as a kalashaha, Amrutaha. It was presented in a position or in a place where one would not expect to see a Amrita kalashaha. Or one would not be offering it. So, appearance or the way it is presented sometimes can be mistaken. And yata uddankaha mutra ashankaha. So, due to the doubt created in the mind that the amritam can be urine of the person, and it need not be amritaha, this person's mind is already thinking like this. Because Vesha Bhusha and the circumstances, everything will make you doubt. Your intellect can be making a mistake. Amritam na agrahit. So, Amritam na agrahit, not the Rishi did not consume. Amritam na agrahit means did not consume. The Amritam as he thought that if at all he took that Amritam also, supposing it was Amritam, but because it came from a person who is a outcast and he was not adequately presented, he was not dirty, it was not in a condition where he could accept it, he would also become a Chandala. So when you consume somebody, you also become a Chandala. And you inherit the qualities of the person. So just by moving somebody or just by living in the company of somebody who is a Chandalaha, you do not become unclean. You do not become uncouth, etc. It is because it has got nothing to do with that. The physical body is only a physical body, dirty, all these are attributes of the physical body. But the Atma or the consciousness of the one who is residing in the physical body method complex is always one. So even though the Rishi did tapas of so many things, at that particular point of time, this thought did not come to him. Even the great Adi Shankara also had the same issue in Manisha Panchakam. In Manisha Panchakam also, which we'll do in the introduction class, maybe in a few weeks time, couple of weeks time. There also, Adi Shankara, after his great Vijayam, he is going around celebrating his victory over Advaitam or Madhura Mishra. He meets one Chandala coming in front of him. So the moment the Chandala comes, he says, Gacha Gacha. Means you go away from me, don't come in front of me, because I am a sannyasi. and I'm a sannyasi, and the Chandala is not supposed to be coming in front of you. In the olden days, you will see caste system is there, right? So whenever there's a Brahmin going there, the Chandala or the white people will actually be sitting somewhere else. They will not be in front of the person. So it is still there in some places. Even in India, even now it is still there. Caste system is still prevalent. So there also, then the Chandala who is present, he's come there, asked, okay, so you're asking me to go away. Are you asking me to go away from the physical body, or you're asking me to go away from the Atma, the consciousness which is residing in me? Which one you want to go away? Bruhi. He says, so even the great Adi Shankara also, sometimes when he came, he realized immediately, instantly, he didn't doubt, because his knowledge was very steady. He didn't have a doubt even a second that this Chandala who is present in front of me, who is asking this question or is asking this, he's not an ordinary person. So he boasts to this Chandala saying that you are my Guru. So later on it is revealed that this Chandala is another than Lord Shiva, who came there to arrest the Ahankara of even the great Adi Shankara, who carried away by the victories he had. The same way here also, the buddhi aparadam can be happening for anybody also. So mutra ashankaha na agrahit amritam yatha. So the viparita bhavana is what stopped Rishi from consuming this amritam despite his tapas, etc. Because what is he afraid of? He's afraid of all this, the benefits or the punyam he has done for so many years will all be vanished, will all be tarnished if he just consume this particular thing. So even though Amritam was given to him, he didn't want to take it. So even though when I say that you are the Atma, you do not want to believe it. Because you do not want to be, see, when you say you are the Atma, and I say, it is a fact. It is not something like inference or something. It is a fact. It is 100% truth. But when you say, when you take you to the Atma, then you'll have to let go of all your punyam and papa. This is where the problem comes. If I leave all the punya and papa, what will happen to me? I've worked so hard for this. The entire life I have struggled to work for this, and suddenly if you just come and tell me that you are the Atma, you are not able to understand this, not able to comprehend this immediately. So he says, the same way tatha, Bhayajantoho karma phala nashaha. See the word? Karma nashaha bhayajantoho. So what is bhayajantoho means? All the jivas. Jantuhu means the jivas. So all the jivas in this world are afraid of bhayajantoho. What bhayam? Karma phala nashaha. So karma phala nashaha bhayat means all the future karmas I will lose interest. So if I study Brahma Jnanam, what people will say to me, that you are not attending my parties, you are no longer social, you are completely stopped talking to me, you are not the same person, you are not inviting to my house at all, you are not coming anywhere for parties at all. Because whenever you ask, you say, I have got class. I am in some satsang. I am in some prayer. So after some time, they'll tell you, okay, they'll remove you. So if you are a wise person, you will say, I'm very happy about it. Just Bhajagovindam, we say, satsangat se nisangatvam. So if you are already in satsanga, you will have to disconnect from that to get into something else. You cannot be everywhere. Even though you wish to, time is only about that much time you got. You cannot be in this place, you cannot be in that place, you cannot be running around, because it will only make your life miserable. So sometimes you have to make the right decision of getting disconnected. But if your commitment is not 100%, if your belief is 100%, then there is a possibility that you'll have bhayam. So bhaya jantoho, when it says here, it means what? This living beings here are afraid of what? Karma phala nashaha. So in some other Upanishad it says that I don't understand why people are behaving like this. Why are they weird? When I'm giving you immunity, when I'm giving you, that the medicine for becoming Amrtatvam, you're not accepting it. You do not want to do that. You want to go back to your old thing and do same what you want to do. The same way as Udanka Rishi was given the Amrtatvam, he refused to take it because he didn't believe it was that. The same way when Shastram says you are Tattvamasi, you are the Atma, you do not want to believe it. Or you have doubt. I don't know whether I am Atma or not. I don't know whether I am ready or not. This is called the Buddhi Aparadaha, the defect in the intellect. It has nothing to do with just a small defect, and this particular thing can cause a person to be in samsara for a very long time. That's what it says here. Bhayajantoho karmanashaha atmagyana agrahi. So the word tatha. So the word last tatha is there. You first say, therefore, in the same way, tatha. Bhayajantoho karmanashaha atmagyana agrahit. So in the same way, people are afraid of pursuing atmagyana. So they are worried. See, if you pursue this path, then I will have to leave all my rituals and practices. How it is possible? I have mastered so many things. I have learned from my father all the rituals are there. I learned from all these mantras. I've learned everything. Suddenly I have to leave everything and go and understand that all this chanting, all this meditation, all these karmas are useless. Because it is not going to give you jnanam. And only pursuit of jnanam is required for usually Atma Jnana or study of the Shastra. So you are already a person who spent so much of years in Pandityam. He's become master. He's called Brahmashri. A lot of, he's a Brahmashri. He's a very learned scientist, scholar. So when you say all these things, then you get highly elated. You want to be called like that. And if Shastram comes and tells you that you are not this, you are not a Brahmashri, it is a title given to you. You're not even a Pandit. It's only a status given to you. In reality, you are neither of this. You are the Atma, the consciousness. Then you start to wonder, my God, what is he saying now? So he's saying that I am the Atma, the consciousness, and I am not a Brahmashri, I'm not a Panditaha, then who I am? So he doesn't want to pursue, he's afraid. See, if I in the Vaila Pona, if I forget everything, then I'm not confident of going back also. So this is the common situation everybody has got, correct? Till you come to study Shastram, or when you are studying Shastram in between, first year of transition. See, when you go to school first time, what happens? First time when you go from year 5 to year 6, when you are in primary class, and from Matunga we went to Valala. It was a difficult task because we are very comfortable in our primary school, small building, maybe 2-3 classes. One teacher was there, one peon was there. We could see all these things. But suddenly when you are going to go to year 6, high school, and I remember the first time when you went there, you don't want to go because you would rather be staying where you are than you do not want to go to some place where there are so many people are there. So you look for company, you look for people who are got same amount of not interested. Then finally one person says, I will take you to school. You come with me and I will take you to school. And then he or she takes you to school for next 1 or 2 weeks time, makes you settle there, and then now you're comfortable. Then you start to go. So there's always this apprehension, there's always, when you are well settled in life, when everything is working very well for you, why do you want to rock the boat and learn something new? That's what it says here. Tatha bayo jantoho karma nashaha atma jnana agrahit. In the same way, amritam na agrahit, atmam na atma jnana na agrahit. So in the first line, it was what? Amritam na agrahit. So he refused amritam because what? Mutra ashankaha yatha uddankaha. Just as, so the example given the first time is Rishi. The Rishi also had the same issue about suspecting something, or he wanted to be comfortable in where he is doing, and he didn't want to take that particular line of amritam and then lose all his karma phala nasha. So all tapas he is doing, etc., will be lost. So he didn't want to be in a situation like this. So he refused. I'm okay. I don't want your amritam. He didn't say that it is like this. He didn't say to Indra that it is urine. What he said was, I'm sorry, I don't want to accept anything from you. I don't want this. So Indra also didn't ask because he doesn't want to worry about it. He doesn't care why you're not taking it. Because he came already with vision board that he's not going to give you anything. So when somebody is saying that you don't want it, Nalada Pochupa, I'll take it back. So I don't want anything. The same here also. Tata baya jantoho karma phala nashaha atma jnana agrahi. So we are not actually worried, if our papams are not destroyed. Okay. We are not really worried. But we are worried if our punyams get destroyed. Is it correct? See, always what do we say? Papam is okay. But whatever punyam I've earned, I should not get lose it. Because punyam is the one which keeps you going. So you do not want to lose the punyam. Papam doesn't get destroyed, it is okay. You can live with it. Because what does punyam do? Punyam will take you to Brahma Loka or to Vishnu Loka or to whichever Loka you want to go, you will go there. You already have a vision. See, I have done so much of punyam I should do, so that I'll one day will go to Vishnu Loka. I'll go to Vaikuntham or I'll go to Shiva Lokam and I will attain, I'll be one with the Bhagavan. So in the process of doing this, we are not even worried about Papam Porda, but we must not lose Punyam. Because it is something, what is Punyam? Karma Phala, correct? Punyam is Karma Phala. Papam also is Karma Phala only. But you are not worried about Papam. Because you accept that Papam is there and we will try to overcome the Papam by doing more Punyam. So when you have this big bank balance with you of Karma Phala Punyam, you do not want to lose it. So Karma Phala Nashaha Atma Jnana Agrahit. It means what the person, because of this fear of losing Karma Phalaha or Punyam, one is not interested to pursue Atma Jnana. One is afraid to pursue Atma Jnanam. One is hesitant to pursue Atma Jnanam. So they go back to the old things. So they will go for some time. Let's see how long it goes. Then they go for 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years, they'll go for that. 3 years, sometimes they'll go for it. Always with the mind, they're not sure what they want to do. See, there are people who are like this. One person is committed to that, yes, I don't know anything at all about rituals, I don't really care about it. They are the blessed people because they do not have any problem. They do not have to choose between should do or not do because they don't know themselves. See, because they don't know rituals at all, they have not been doing for so many years. They are not worried about this. Anyway, I don't know about it. So what's the point of me worrying about leaving anything because I already left it. By default, by choice, they left. So no sandhyavandanam, no puja, no nothing is there. No punal by sannyasi by default. I'm not saying that. What it means is that for such a person, accepting Shastram is easier because they do not come with any baggage. Whereas a person who's been traditionally been brought into Sampradaya, Pujai, Punaskaram, rituals, chanting, everything there. And he or she is doing for so many years. Suddenly, when you start to study Shastram, initially there's a small break being put. No, let me do a checkpoint to see whether it's applicable or not. Then you compare whether, what I'm doing for so many years, what will happen to this? I will have to leave all these things. Chanting would have entered, prayer would have entered, worship would have entered. Going temple last year we left. So many things are there to be left. So all these things have to be left when you got priority towards studying Shastra. Which one you pick? You pick the one for studying Shastra. So if I choose this path, then I have to leave those things. So this particular verse talks about this buddhi aparadaha, mistake committed by intellect because of this particular pratibandha or dharma sangadama nilai. So you do not know which way to go. See, if you go that way, then I will not be free from samsara. If I take this way, I may be free from samsara. I'm not very sure how long will I continue. So let me do both for some time. Try panni paakala. So when you do both, you get a flavor of what you think from the aspect. That contradicts the vision you are getting from Atmagyanam, correct? The Atmagyanam says what? You are the doer. You're not the karta. You're not the bhokta. Only thing talking about. There, when you go there, says, so I've been told that I'm a bhokta, I'm a karta, but here I am doing all this prayer, rituals, etc. So I don't know what I'm doing. Should I do this or should I not do this? So this is the situation for most in the beginning. Is it correct? So they are in this situation for a very long time. Can sometimes continue for 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years also. And after some time, it is possible it can completely flip over. Somebody will flip over to this side, someone will flip over to the other side, leaving everything out. Suddenly they will just leave all Shastram, they leave everything out, then go back to the old way of living style. This is what I'm comfortable with. I would like to live like this, and this is how it is. So the same example is quoted here. So just as this, Uddanka Rishihi, even though living a life of contemplation, of tapas and studying Shastram, etc., when coming to offering you Amritattvam, he could have asked Vishnu, right? Give me Amritattvam in terms of Jnana. But he didn't ask. He asked that by which he could extend his life and live for longer years. So somewhere, there's intellect, there's mistake committed there. Because the karma phala nasham is worried about. Is it clear? This verse is clear? So let's read it again. Mutra shanku yato dhankaha na agrani dasrutam yatha karma nasha mayo jantoho Ajnanam agrahastatha. Okay. First one is clear to you? First verse. See, sometimes this Upanishads, this one, it challenges your thinking a lot. Okay, the second one. I'll give an introduction to you, second one, and then we will look at the verse. So here it talks about the buddhi, which is of a fleeting nature. Buddhi is of fleeting nature. And how does it react? An example is given here in this case. A person is sitting in a boat. he is going in a boat in a river, and maybe it's a speed boat or something, or any boat, rowing and rowing and rowing, going there. So when he's rowing, he's going forward, correct? So the boat is going forward, the water is coming this side, correct? Because the water always goes opposite direction, correct? So he's going forward, the water is going over the water. At the same time, he looks around. There are trees which are there. The trees seems to be moving in the opposite direction. Is correct? So we see this. So whenever we go in a car also, the car goes in one direction, the trees goes in opposite direction. But do the trees go in opposite direction or your mind go in opposite direction? So the tree doesn't move at all. Your mind moves, right? So when the mind moves, the tree also thinks the tree is moving like this. So this is also because the mind is supposed to be always changing. The buddhi always changes, keeps changing. Whereas the tree is not supposed to change because it is a jadaha. It cannot move. So when somebody tells you that, oh, you are making a mistake, see, the tree doesn't move at all. You are the one who is moving. And because you are moving, you feel the tree is moving. So you accept the fact, oh, that tree is jadam only. So I'm quite right. I'm actually not the person who is doing anything. The tree is there. I am moving. So you are able to objectify anything which is outside of you, correct? The tree is outside of you, the mountain is outside of you, and the intellect is inside you. So you are able to now objectify anything outside of you. As saying that is jadaha, it cannot move, and my mind only moves. And it is my own understanding, my own perception, ramaha, right? The way it is. But what we fail to understand is that the mind itself is residing in the physical body, right? The mind itself is in the physical body, and the mind itself is moving inside, right? It keeps changing all the time. But we cannot objectify this physical body. We cannot say that, no, the trees are okay with this, but I cannot accept this for the physical body. So you have the ownership, you have the hold on to the physical body so much that you are able to discount everything else, not yourself. What Shastram says to you is including the physical body is an object of knowledge, right? Idam includes this universe, Idam also includes you also, right? As an object of knowledge. So the Atma which is present in the physical body is the one which is empowering the mind. This we I think we know. So the consciousness is the one due to his sahaja tadatmiyam or natural association infuses life into the mind, the intellect. And the intellect now assumes or takes ownership as this is the Atma and performs or continues to live like the Atma. So it's like a parallel, it's a shadow of the consciousness living in the body, and the shadow is taken as the truth. But the shadow cannot touch the Atma, right? So can the mind go and change the Atma, the consciousness? It cannot. An example I'll give you also, that if you are watching TV in your home, the TV is supposed to be a flat screen, right? And the TV is completely flat, there are no images there. You put on the TV, the images come on the screen. There are violent scenes, romantic scenes. So many songs are being done, trees are moving, hero is dancing, heroine is dancing, So many things are happening there in the TV. And if you're watching a soap opera like in Tamil, people cry, people plot. So many things are happening there. You also are also part of that. So if you connect yourself to the object will become the thought, correct? Which is going to see in the next subsequent verses. He talks about that. But here for now, the object seems to be moving in the TV, correct? All the characters, they come and go. So one after the other, the character goes from this room to that room. They go from here to Switzerland. They come back again. All these are possible. And the images are all going on the TV. Now, if there is anything which is broken by the person in the TV, say he's fighting and he's throwing an arrow, do you think the arrow is going to come through the TV screen and come and hit you? It is not. So it is happening only within the screen. Does any of the movements in the screen in the TV, does it affect the TV at all? It doesn't. The TV is still in the same place. The screen is still in the same place. All the movements are happening in front of the TV, correct? The TV, the scenes which are happening in the TV doesn't impact the screen at all. It doesn't become tainted, it doesn't become blooded, and the TV doesn't cry because of the scenes. The TV is still there as it is, as what it is. So the images which are there, which are coming from they are not going to make an impact on the TV at all. When you switch off the TV, all the images are gone. Correct? But the TV is still there. It is still there. You cannot say the TV is not there. The TV is still there, but the image is gone. Why? Because reflecting medium, all these things are not there anymore. So that's why you cannot see anything there. So the same way here also, the intellect or the buddhi takes the wrong notion that I am the Atma. And because of this wrong notion, a person continues to do karma and he enjoys the kartutvam and bhoktutvam. And one continues to live in this erroneous perception for many, many years. Right? So samsara vibhramaha. So this is how a person becomes samsari and he continues to live in this wrong perception forever. So that is what is talked about in this verse here. So let's read the verse. Buddhistas chalatiti atma, Buddhistas chalatiti atma, dhyayati vacha drishyate, dhyayati vacha drishyate, naukatasya yata vrikshat, naukatasya yata vrikshat, tat samsara vibhramaha, tat samsara vibhramaha. So, buddhihi chalatihi atma. So, Buddhist tatha means in this way, the atma which is expressing or expressed in the buddhi is of the nature of chalatihi. So, chalati iva, dhyayati iva. See, there are two words are there. Buddhihi chalati iva, dhyayati iva. Cha drishyate. So chalati iva, dhyayati iva, cha drishyate. So drishyate means it is seen or it is perceived. Now how is this perceived? The movement of the intellect, chalati iva. So when you say the intellect, there are vrittis going, right? So there are movements in the mind. So one thought or another thought, it keeps going. Just as, remember the example of TV, the character in the soap opera, there are different types of scenes coming. So one after the other, they come and go. And the old one don't come back again. They may come back. as a flashback or something like this. But it is always possible that one scene goes, another character comes, another character comes, another goes, is continuous. So chalati iva. And dhyayati iva means the mind meditates. So it also meditates on a particular aspect of the impression. So dhyayati iva. So chalati means here it talks about the karmendriyaha and pranaha. So chalati iva refers to karmendriyaha and pranaha. And dhyayati iva represents the atma is thinking, atma is meditating. So what is this? Jnana indriyaha and antakaranaha. So he has given two separate examples. Chalati iva talks about karma indriyaha and pranaha. Dhyayati iva talks about the jnana indriyaha and antakaranaha. So because of the error perception, both this movement, chalati and dhyayati, are superimposed on the atma. So the image which you see on the TV is taken as Satyam. So you become that character. So when you become that character, what do? You cry, you laugh, you enjoy. Because you and the character is now one. Whereas what you do doesn't affect the character itself. See, if you cry, you're seeing also opera, the person who's acting in the TV is not going to cry. You may cry more, you may cry less, but it's not going to impact the person there. At the same time, the actor is performing in the serial there, he's not going to make an impact on the TV at all. So what are these? They are Brahma. They are all, errant perception. So you become like this. And you take that to be the truth, and you enjoy, you suffer, you sorrow, everything, you keep planning also. In fact, there's one joke that your teacher told me. There's a serial going on in India, some very famous serial going on there. And there are two mummies, Madisar mummies, who are very old. They've been following the serial for so long. So they take an auto and they say they want to go to this place. So they go and sit behind the auto, then they talk about so many things. Then they talk about so many things, and the person says, "Oh my God, last time I saw he was about to jump from the first floor, second floor." The other mommy says, "Do you know what happened? Did he jump at all?" No, he did. No, he was very close to jumping, and then I had to go and see what happens now. So the auto rickshaw driver also is very interested. He doesn't know the background behind what they're talking about. He's just a rider there. He's listening to the mommies talking in the background about something there. So he says, "Mommy, suddenly those people are talking, they stop. He says, "You're just saying that those people are committing suicide. Should we call the police or not?" We are talking about a serial which happened last week. And in this last week, one guy was standing on the balcony, supposed to commit suicide. He hasn't jumped. So we are taking an auto to go to the house to see the serial. So what happens? Whatever you hear sometimes can be interpreted as negative also. And you take that to be the Atma. So here also the auto driver, what he was saying was, he heard what we are talking about as a truth. They are talking about something else. So chalati and dhyayati means whatever you infer or knowledge is taking place only in intellect and not in the Atma. Because Atma is always knowing. So it doesn't need to have fresh knowledge there. You cannot say Atma has got new knowledge now. Because Atma is ever knowing, always. Because knowing is his nature. Doesn't need to be having great knowledge. Again, Atma has become more knowledge now. Only your buddhi has become more knowledgeable. We can never say Atma is more knowledgeable because you cannot quantify the Atma with whatever knowledge is there. But you can quantify your buddhi. You can say that I am more educated, more knowledgeable than before. I know more Shastram than before. I can make assumptions. You can do all these things. But you cannot never talk about the Atma. But somehow, this association or this chalati iva dhyayati iva gets superimposed on the Atma, and then the person says, I am meditating, I am doing action, etc. So, it is an error. Even if I say, I know Brahman also is an error, which we see in the Kanopanishad Bhashya. When somebody says, finally I think I know what Brahman is. So Brahman is like this, when you say, it is also an error because it is only an I thought. So all these are what are buddhi aparadaha. So they call buddhi aparadaha, mean their error in perception. So what does it do? So example is given here, naukadasya yatha. See, naukadasya means what? Just as nauka means boat. So naukaha tasya yata vrikshaha. So when you are going in a boat, the trees appear to be moving. So how are they? They are chalati. So chalati iva is the first verse. Naukataha tasya vrikshaha. The same way, tad samsara vibhramaha. Samsara vibhramaha means what? The same way, delusion about being a samsari. So what does a samsari do? I got a lot of things to do. I'm a very busy person. I don't have time for this. In fact, ahankara loves this particular thought. It loves to stay there forever because it does not want to leave. As long as you have this notion, or see, ahankara is well settled there. It doesn't want to go anywhere. You'll have to remove it, pluck it, and then check it out. Unless you take the forceful action, ahankara will not leave you. It says what? Don't touch me. You can do whatever. You can study Shastram also. See, you do study Shastram. You study text Upanishad. You can say, I know Brahman, I know all these things. I love that attitude. Because what does ahankara do? See, I still enjoy. Because you're still saying that I know. I am the doer. I'm a panditaha. I know this. I'm so and so. So ahankara loves this place. He doesn't want to go. This happens unknowingly to us. Correct? We do not know about this. Correct? Unknowingly this happens to us and this keeps us continuing for a lifetime. So we can keep studying Shastra for many years. And what do? Oh, I'm a very knowledgeable person. I studied all Shastrams. I know everything very well. I can explain everything very well. And as long as I have good ahankara, then you will not be free because this will make you stop. Buddhistas chalati vivatma dhyayati vacha drishyate naukatasya yata vrikshas tat samsara vibhramaha. Is that clear to you? The second verse. So, samsara vibhramaha means this brahma is like, is like a delusion. It is illusion. Is like a magician who got into this web now. So samsara vibhramaha, just as the trees which go around and you keep seeing this, and then you go to the boat, the trees keep moving. Same way the mind also keeps moving. But the mind can objectify everything else as asat, as not jadaha. But the same mind cannot comprehend that the mind which is sitting inside the body also is jada. Because it is difficult. The ahankara which is there doesn't let you go of that. So you hold on to that. That's why he says here, samsara vibhramaha. So ahankara is the one which is responsible for this. So one has to resolve the ahankara. One cannot drop ahankara. You can say that I will drop ahankara. Ahankara cannot be dropped. Ahankara can be resolved in jnana. How do we do this? Understanding what ahankara is. Understanding what atma is. Atma is asangaha. Atma is without any attributes. Correct? It doesn't have anything called dirtiness or full. It's nothing like this. It's got no attributes. But atma along with attributes, along with all this, I am small, I am finite, I'm a panditaha, I'm a happy person, I'm a sad person. All these things are what are superimposed on the atma. So atma plus attributes become the ahankara. So if you put equation, atma plus attributes equal to ahankara. So atma is equal to what? Ahankara minus attributes. So if you just move the attribute to the other side, you have to negate it. Hope you're able to follow, right? So far. Any questions you got so far in these two verses? Anyone?
It's clear.
Pushpaji, you're following so far? Okay. Subbu, any questions so far?
Shankar, just one clarification. So, Chalati is the Karmendriya and Pranaha, and Dhyayati is Jnanendriya and the mind,
And the
or
mind.
the intellect.
And the mind.
Okay.
Because dhyayam, see, when you say you meditate using the sensory powers, so you control sensory powers, right? And then the mind. So any meditation which you do is by controlling your sensory powers, like sense of touch. All this, you just move away, you control it with the mind. And chalati means like you can wonder about, because the karma indriyas, etc., the prana, they still function. So it gives example saying that both these together, chalati iva and dhyayati iva, they are mistaken as the atma.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
So when I talk about attributes, these are the attributes, correct? Because
Correct.
what does karmendriya do? It gives you all the 5 different, rasa, gandhaha, rupaha, everything, right? It gives you that. And the mind gives you all the other attributes as what I am small, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm not, so many things are there. And the prana is what pancha pranaha, I'm breathing, I'm not breathing, I'm slow breathing, all these things are there. So they are all attributes. So all the attributes which are there, that is being taken as the atma, because they inherit the qualities, or they inherit from atma, which lends existence to these things. So this becomes the truth, and the person lives with this truth for a very long time, and he is in the brahmaha or samsara vibramaha. So one has to come out of this, one has to let go of the attributes or resolve the attributes, then only you will be able to understand what the atma is. Till such time you will not be able to come near what the atma is also. Let alone you take ownership of the atma. Right? That is what's the difficult part. See, ahankara is so well entrenched that it doesn't want to let you go. Even if you want to go also, what does it? Because it wants to hold, it needs a place for holding. Right? So it holds on to anything which you think you like. When you like something, it will hold on to that. So for that to be loose, you should not have any likes, raga, dvesha. You must not likes or dislikes. Correct? So that is the real essence of that is this verse talks about the ahankara or the intellect. The previous was also the ahankara, because what he thought, Udankarishi, I'm a wise person, I'm a knowledgeable person, and I learned so many things, I become so much of punyam. If I do this, take this amritam, I'll become impure. And become impurity, I will get more papam, and punyam will not be there. Because he mistook all the things as the atma. Had he taken ownership of the atma, he says, it doesn't matter. I don't amritam, what is the point? I'm already amrita. I do not need amritam to make me more amrita. because I am an immortal person already. So you would not have even asked the question to Vishnu that I want Amrita, correct? When do you ask a question? When you're insecure. So you see the message being conveyed by the Acharya that it talks about insecurity, ahankara as reason for samsara vibravaha. So even though he had an opportunity to become Amritaha, he didn't take it. He could have been freed from samsara, he would have gone to Devaloka, he would have been like this. But he didn't want it. Because the ahankara within the mind forces him not to accept that. So one has to free oneself from ahankara is what the essence of the first and the second verse. So we will continue with the next class, the third verse, which is talks about the same example but in a different manner. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Namaste. So for those of you who are coming to the 4:30 class, Vishnu Sahasrama class, I'll see you at 4:30 there.
Thank you, Pranam.
Thank you.